Hello everybody, Vic here with another video. Today we're talking the Halloween franchise. I'm going through the different timelines to figure out how could we continue from the end of that timeline. Listen, you as Halloween fans know as I do, this series is a freaking mess when it comes to timelines. They're always picking up with new storylines, new reboots. Jamie Lloyd wants to come back, so we have a lot of open-ended storylines that you could pick up from, and everybody's trying to figure out the same thing. What the hell do we do with the future of Halloween? Do we pick up from a pre-existing storyline, timeline? Do we actually start a whole new timeline? Do we get rid of Michael Myers? What do we do? No one knows what the future of the Halloween franchise holds. But I'm going to explore some possibilities today, so come with me on this journey. And of course, in the comments, let me know what you think about these possibilities. Hit the like button, subscribe, the thumbs up, leave your comment. All right, let's get to it. So, as we've seen, of course, a very popular idea always is just to pick up from the events of part one. Michael Myers has gotten shot 6 times, as Loomis has said. He's flying off the balcony. He's disappearing to the darkness of the night. Where is Michael? We don't know. How do you pick up from the end of part one for a timeline, for a reboot, whatever you want to call it? I don't think it's the most exciting possibility. I don't think they should pick up from the events of part one. It's kind of a tired thing here, but if you want to do it, if you want to pick up after part one, here's how you do it in today's world. What you could do is simply have Michael disappear and end up in a town, a couple towns over, a different town, maybe within an hour or two drives of Haddonfield, but somewhere not too far, somewhere where it's believable that Michael got there within walking distance. He walked there from Haddonfield. You can have it take place the year after the events of Halloween, and now he's stalking a new group of babysitters, a new friend group. He's locked his stalking sights on a new girl, forgot all about that damn Laurie Strode, and there you go. You pick up there. Now you have to have the movie, of course, take place in the late 70s. You want to, continue it after the original Halloween, and then because you're within, walking distance in a town not too far away, once Loomis hears about this, you can bring back Loomis. He's going to show up in that town as well, trying to help the new friendship group from, getting all killed by Michael Myers, trying to step in. Maybe he shoots Michael 8 times this time. I shot him 8 times! And listen, you got a perfectly reasonable new timeline. Of course, you're recasting Loomis with a young actor so that if you want to move on with this timeline, you have a young actor who can continue that ultimate struggle between Loomis and Michael for sequels upon sequels. You can go from the 70s into the 80s, into the 90s. You make Halloween movies for the next 75 years with this idea. But will they do that? I don't know. I don't think so. The problem is when you pick up from the events of part one, there's just a strong temptation based on how part one went to continue the character of Laurie Strode. And I just think that I'd want to continue in a whole new town with new characters, let Laurie Strode move on with their life. For once, in one of these damn timelines, we don't have to catch up with Laurie Strode later in life. She's not that interesting of a character as they think, but I understand Jamie Lloyd is a big star, so they'll always bring her back if she offers, so I understand that completely. Okay, Halloween 2. Does anybody want to pick up after the events of Halloween 2? I think they pretty much did that properly with both H2O and Halloween 4. Not much really you can do there. I mean, the truth is, Michael at the end of Halloween 2, he's burning on the damn ground, no matter what Halloween H2O says, with no damn scars on him at all, no burn scars, and no matter what Halloween 4 says, him being in a coma, the man was on the ground burning at the end of Halloween 2. I don't know how the hell he made it out of there. At least Halloween 4 has him in a coma. Believable, maybe. H2O, the fact that he disappeared after Halloween 2, come on, man. He wasn't getting up and going. We saw the ambulance people talking at the end of Halloween 2. They didn't mention anything about Michael getting away, so okay, let's forget about the idea of picking up after Halloween 2. They've done that twice. Nobody wants to see that. Halloween 3, wow, Silver Shamrock storyline. Can you do that in 2025? Hell yes, you can. I don't know exactly how to continue this timeline, though, because Halloween 3 is such a very specific individual movie, and you're doing such a big time jump now. I mean, the first movie was in the early 80s. To go from there to here and pick up the story would be quite difficult. I'd love to see it, but I got to rewatch Halloween 3 to put together a story of how you could do that, because there's a way to do it, but I don't know if there's enough in the audience for Halloween 3 for them to ever even think about the possibility of continuing the Halloween 3 storyline. It's going to be probably a fan film that has to do it, but I'm a huge fan of Halloween 3, so I would welcome it as a one-off, but continue that timeline, it's really not going to work without Michael Myers. You probably got to call it something different. You got to probably call it Season of the Witch Part 2, because you really can't call it Halloween and have it come out in the Halloween franchise and not have Michael Myers. You can't do that these days. Fool me once, Fool me twice, you can't do it. Okay, a very popular idea amongst Halloween fans is why don't we pick up after the events of Part 4? Part 4 is so popular, of course, my favorite sequel in the entire franchise. Why can't we just continue the Jamie Lloyd story after the events of Part 4? Well, listen, I've done a video about that. It's basically called If Jamie Were to Become the Killer, because if you were going to go with following up on Part 4, the concern there is how do you fit Michael Myers into that? Because I think following up the events of Part 4 makes the most sense for Jamie Lloyd herself to be the killer. And, in the video, I basically surmised to say that I would do a time jump of maybe 7, 8, 9 years, have Jamie Lloyd, maybe 10 years, have Jamie Lloyd be in college. And Rachel Carruthers is still alive in this timeline, of course. So she's her big sister still in Haddonfield. Jamie Lloyd comes home from college and just coming back into Haddonfield, she's not quite right, and some kind of curse thing takes over. She starts killing people in Hadfield, and the clash is that Rachel Carruthers has to actually stop Jamie Lloyd now, who is the killer. So that's how I would do it. I don't know if you can continue after Part 4 with Michael Myers in there, because then you're just doing what Halloween 5 did, which ignores the great ending of Part 4, which is that Jamie Lloyd is meant to take over. The circle continues with Jamie Lloyd as the killer. So if you ignore that and just have Michael chasing Jamie Lloyd, it's like, okay, but then how do you justify the ending of Halloween 4? Now, Halloween 5, can you continue after the events of Halloween 5? Yes, you can, because Halloween 5, 1989, Curse of Michael Myers, 6 years later, 1995. You could pick up after the events of Halloween 5. The problem is that everybody hates Halloween 5. I don't. I actually am becoming a pretty decent fan of Halloween 5, to be honest. Mind blown. I never would have thought this a year ago, but Halloween 5 ends with Michael being, slammed out of jail from the Man in Black, all right? Escapes. Probably does or doesn't kill Sheriff Meeker. It'd be nice to find out what happens to Meeker in any kind of potential sequel to Halloween 5. But bottom line is, they've taken Michael. Michael's gone. Now, you don't have to have Jamie Lloyd be kidnapped here at the end of Part 5. That's never shown. We showed Jamie Lloyd crying. So we can continue the story of Jamie Lloyd going from the events of Halloween 5 a little bit easier. Like I said, if we're doing Halloween 4, you got the whole thing of is Jamie Lloyd the killer, yada, yada, yada. Halloween 5, we already kind of diffused that, solved that. So now we can have a really solid continuation of the Jamie Lloyd story after Halloween 5. Again, same thing, time jump. 10 years later, Jamie Lloyd's a teenager. Michael comes back with the Man in Black. Now we get a satisfying potential option of who is the Man in Black. And damn it, I nominate Tommy Doyle. That's right. Why not? Why not bring back Tommy Doyle one more time and make him the Man in Black? Let's say Tommy lost his mind after the events of Halloween. Well, I guess he was a little kid, but grew up to eventually lose his mind, become obsessed with Michael Myers, and he's the one who bailed Michael Myers out of jail. There's no cult here, no cult of Thorn. You just have, Tommy Doyle acting as sort of an assistant to Michael Myers, and Michael Myers just being like, hey, you know what? I met you when you were a kid, so I'm going to teach you the way I taught Corey. Of course, you're going to be a better pro teacher than Corey because you're not going to beat my ass in a sewer and take my mask. So I just like the idea of a Tommy Doyle, Michael Myers pairing if we're following up with Halloween 5. Listen, the whole thing here is basically making a better version of Curse of Michael Myers. Without the Cult of Thorn, without that stuff. Just you follow naturally Jamie Lloyd. Now, in this timeline, of course, Rachel Carruthers would be dead since she died in Halloween 5. Tina's dead. Loomis, of course, is gone. But I think you got enough there with just following Jamie Lloyd now as an adult in college. Whatever you want to do, just you follow her as an adult. Michael stalking after her, but I have it take place after Halloween 5, not after Halloween 4. Okay, what about if we continue after the events of Halloween 6? Halloween 6, which ends very mysteriously. We have Tommy Doyle and Kara and Danny and the baby. They drive away in a car, probably to start a new life somewhere outside of Haddonfield. Probably going to pull a Laurie Strode from the H2O timeline and go live in California, do something different. We don't know. And then Doc Loomis hangs behind because he has unfinished business. And we hear Doc Loomis scream, of course. Just kind of a forced, silly ending due to Donald Pleasance having passed away. So you have no closure for the Dr. Loomis character. But how do you pick up after Halloween 6? Well, very simple. We're going to do a time jump. And the baby from Halloween 6 is now an adult. And Danny, of course, I believe essentially his Jamie's baby, pretty much we're talking about, and then Danny, Kara's son. They're gonna be friends as adults, pretty much. They grow up and they're friends, so we're gonna have them as adults in Haddonfield, and just gonna have Michael Myers come back and shit starts going down. Like, I know that's a very specific thing that for people who would have had to have seen Curse of Michael Myers to remember, hey, Danny, Jamie's baby. But better believe if Mike was alive in that timeline, eventually he's coming back after Jamie's baby. Jamie's baby being an adult gives a perfectly new, good main character for that storyline. So in the Curse of Michael Myers, like in that sort of Thorn timeline, if Michael's still alive, eventually he's coming for Jamie's baby. So in this timeline, we're going to do the same exact thing, maybe where it's 17 years. Let's make Jamie's baby 17 years old so we can continue that thing about, Laurie Strode was 17. Or you can have them be a full-blown adult if you actually wanted to be like literally 30 years after that. But that's the idea, follow Danny and Jamie's baby and just kind of go from there. Okay, let's cut to now if we continued after Halloween Resurrection. Well, listen, we have three strong potential main characters here that we can roll with, and that's because H2O and Resurrection, between the two of them, you have three characters. We have four characters. You have Sarah from Halloween Resurrection. You have Freddy, which is Busta Rhymes from Resurrection. And then you have John and Molly from H2O. So you have four characters there that you could bring back to continue the Resurrection timeline. And of course, Michael wasn't dead at the end of Resurrection, so you absolutely could continue that timeline. I mean, now in this timeline, Jamie Lee Curtis cannot come back in this timeline, of course, so maybe they wouldn't do it just because they want to keep the possibility always of bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back, but she died in Resurrection, so she can't come back in this timeline. Could you get Josh Hartnett? Maybe. Could you get the girl that played Sarah? I think so. Could you get Busta Rhymes? Hell yes. Could you get Michelle Williams back for a Halloween movie? I don't think so. I mean, she's winning every other year. She's nominated for an Oscar. I don't see her coming back. So, okay, so Molly has left John. John is single. We can say that, they were together, but then Molly left because John was bringing trauma into Molly's life, bringing up Michael Myers, and he's still out there. All this, whatever. So John's by himself, Josh Hartnett. And then we can have Busta Rhymes trying to do something, Freddy's trying to do something in Haddonfield to make money off of his experience with Michael Myers. Once everything calms down, you got to think Freddy, the businessman, maybe thought, hey, maybe I can make some money off the whole events of Halloween Resurrection. So he's doing something that provokes Michael Myers to come back to get him. You interweave Sarah into this somehow. And you got it. You just need John, Sarah, and Freddy in Haddonfield. Whatever reason, three surviving protagonists from previous movies there to take on Michael. Boom, you got a perfectly good sequel to Halloween Resurrection. No, Jamie Lee Curtis cannot come back in this. Well, actually, we didn't actually see her die in Resurrection. She fell down into a dark abyss. She hit the ground. But I guess in Resurrection, we would have heard if she was still alive, I'm guessing. So, okay, yeah, she's definitely out of it. All right, where else are we going with this? Okay, well, the Blumhouse trilogy. How do we come back after the end of Blumhouse? Well, Blumhouse, this is where you should have left Corey alive. I've been saying for 2 years now. All you had to do was at the end of Halloween Ends, just cut to Corey on the ground and have his eyes open, or cut to where he was laying on the ground, just have the blood stain there, but the body's gone, and boom! Now you've set up a perfect future franchise, sequels, whatever, with Corey taking over. All right, so Corey's dead. How do we continue the events of Halloween Ends? This I don't want to do because this definitely means that Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back. Even in a cameo fashion, they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis if they continue after the events of Halloween Ends. But it's got to be something to do with Allison. Allison is the character from the Blumhouse trilogy who's young enough and who we are emotionally connected to enough to where you can continue a franchise on Allison's back. How do you do it? Well, does she become the killer? Hard to believe, and we've done that with Corey, so it's tough to figure that. Can you bring back Michael Myers in the Blumhouse timeline? I mean, I don't know. We've seen Michael come back from a lot, but what happens to him at the end of Halloween Ends, I don't think there's coming back from that. So you just really can't do it. You had the thing there with Corey. You had to have Corey take over. Nobody wants to see Allison take over as the killer, so I don't think you can do anything with the Blumhouse timeline. That's dead, buried, and plus the negative residue of Halloween Ends is still in that taste in everybody's mouth. I'm not saying I hate Halloween Ends by any stretch, but there was a huge backlash from the Halloween fan base towards Halloween Ends. Justified or not, a lot of fans were not happy with that movie and still complain about it to this day. So you really can't, you got to wait a long time before you continue the Halloween Ends timeline to get that bitter taste away from a lot of the fans, the franchises, the fans' mouths, I guess. Okay, what's most likely to happen though? How do you actually continue Halloween? What are they probably going to do? Well, are they going to reboot it where they retell the events of part one in 2025? So we're going to have Laurie Strode, Dr. Loomis, but it's in 2025 or whatever the year is, 2028. And they're just going to continue a new timeline from that point. So we're going to get a whole new series of films starting with part one, a remake of part one in 2027, 2028. That's what I see them doing. And I'm just not really that interested. I know that for younger fans, like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like let's get our version of the Halloween franchise. I know there's 17 different timelines, but I don't want to see the events of part one told again. I don't care if you do the best possible casting for Loomis, the best possible casting for a new Laurie Strode. I just don't want to see the first Halloween remade. I would love whatever they do to just put part one's events in the rear view and pick up somewhere down the line from that, or just do something completely different. Use the character Michael Myers, do something different, but do not do the whole escapes from the hospital, stalks babysitters on Halloween night. I don't want to see that. But now, of these timeline possibilities, which one would I personally want to see the most? Man, I gotta tell you, I may have sounded negative a little earlier, but I'm a Thorn guy. I'm a big Thorn trilogy guy. For me, all my nostalgia, all my growing up and watching on AMC love is all geared towards Halloween's 4 and 5, and I've grown to love Halloween 6. So I would love to somehow continue that timeline, but I know it's not going to happen because, again, just like Halloween Ends, I don't think it's actually true, but the perception from the Halloween brass, the Halloween, like the people managing Halloween, I'm sure the perception is that nobody wants to see the Thorn trilogy continue. It has like a bad rap probably amongst the creators of Halloween. So they probably won't do that, but I would love to see that. Again, you got Daniel Harris who's willing to play Jamie Lloyd again, so you can definitely do something with Daniel Harris as Jamie Lloyd. I would love the whole sequel to Halloween 6 too, because actually I do like the characters of Tommy Doyle. I do like the characters of like Kara, and you can do a lot with Tommy Doyle. You could do a lot with Jamie's baby and Danny. Maybe you can get back Paul Rudd for some kind of cameo there as Tommy Doyle, so that'd be cool. In terms of the Rob Zombie movies, I just think that obviously that's so tied to Rob Zombie that I just don't think there's even a possibility that ever happens in a universe, because it would have to be Rob Zombie coming back, and honestly, that's not going to happen. So these are the timeline suggestions that I have. Let me know in the comments what you think about all these ideas, and if you have an idea of yourself of what you want to do with the Halloween franchise, which timeline do you want to pick up from, let me know. And until next time, you guys take care.